In Lecture 4, we will be continuing with the fit and proper requirements, looking at operational ability, financial soundness, and regulated officers.
When you talk about the operational ability of an FSP, so an FSP needs to demonstrate continuous operational ability. So they have to have a fixed business address, adequate communication facilities, this is telephones, internet, photocopiers, adequate storage and filing, bank accounts. If they're dealing with clients' money, they need to have a trust account. They need to have appropriate money laundering controls and detailed service level agreements. When you look at the internal control structures there in the block on the right hand side, it talks about the segregation of duties. So when you look at internal controls, this ensures that everyone dealing with documentation and policies knows what is going on. So there's disaster recoveries, there's electronics backups, there's physical backups. So you need to have all of these operational aspects of your business. They need to have system controls and compliance measures in place. So they also need to have a person who ensures that they are complying with the regulation at all times. They also need to maintain an indemnity or insurance fund to cover risks, and they need to maintain operational abilities. Dealing with the financial soundness of an FSP, you cannot apply for an FSP license if you are. When dealing with financial soundness of an FSP, you cannot apply for a license to be a financial services provider if you are an unrehabilitated insolvent or currently under liquidation. So the different categories are discussed. So category 1 FSP, this is an FSP that doesn't hold funds or assets on behalf of clients. So they just need to be solvent. Category 1 FSPs that hold clients' funds, they need to comply with other minimum requirements. So their assets need to exceed their liabilities. They need to maintain current assets to cover liabilities, and they need to maintain liquid assets equal to 4 of 52 weeks of annual expenditure.
When you deal with the regulated officers, we're referring to the key individual, the representatives, and the compliance officers. So a key individual of an FSP is a natural person, so not a company, and they oversee the supervision of rendering the services. This individual must be approved by the registrar. A representative can either be employed by the FSP or outsourced. This is the person that actually renders the services to the client. They give the advice and the services. They are not approved directly by the registrar, but they have to enter into a contract called a mandate. We'll go into detail of what a mandate is later on in the course. They accept the responsibilities of the company or the FSP that they represent. The representative cannot act without such appointment. The mandate is a very important part of this appointment because the mandate states exactly what the representative may or may not do. So they may only act in terms of that specific contract. As an FSP, when you have people representing your company, you need to ensure that they are competent to provide these financial services. So for example, you need to ensure that they comply with the fit and proper requirements, honesty, integrity, etc. So when you have someone representing you, you must make sure that they do your company proud, for example. The FSP also must keep a list of these individuals, the representatives and key individuals, so they can be made available to the registrar. So if anything had to happen, the registrar would be kept informed. This also enables the registrar to keep a central register of all of the representatives and key individuals, and it can be published on the website. So if you are approached by a person, you can make sure that that person is a representative of a specific FSP or a key individual belonging to a specific FSP. An FSP can also at any time withdraw authorization. So if their representative or key individual no longer complies, so if they get caught doing something dishonest, they're no longer a fit and proper person, or they are not complying with their mandate, that FSP can withdraw their authorization for that person to act on their behalf. When you deal with the sole proprietor, so that is a company which is just one person. So it's not necessarily incorporated. This is a guy doing business on his own. He doesn't have any representatives, so he doesn't need to appoint a specific compliance officer. So you can approach an external compliance officer and outsource the compliance, give them all the documentation and say, please ensure that I comply with all the regulations. The registrar can withdraw the approval of this officer if he has done any of these things, if he failed to comply with the Act, doesn't meet the requirements anymore, or there's certain criteria and guidelines determined by the registrar, and if he doesn't meet any of those, the registrar can withdraw the approval. In terms of administrative law, when a decision is taken by a higher power, you need to give the reasons for that decision, and in some cases you also have to allow for an appeal of that decision. So when a registrar withdraws approval, he needs to make the reasons known by way of public media.